Yeah, hi all. Okay, so there's a small change. Today what we will cover is it's not like the good part of Spring or something like that. All the frameworks are actually having their own advantage and disadvantages, but it is important for us to understand each framework and it is its purpose also. That's the idea. So when we discussed about this topic, myself, Sauvik, Vaibhav, we thought about the title, whether this is going to be a Spring Boot introduction or something else. But the title that we set ourselves is we just want to go just before the introduction also. We just want to understand what is Spring Boot. Let us make this session. Let us okay. So let us make this session interactive because I want to understand other people's idea also, so that we can take it from there on what is Spring Boot. So you can at any point in time, if you want to stop and ask question, please go ahead and then do it. Before we go to Spring Boot, in fact, there is something that we should know before we go to this modern day frameworks like Spring Boot, Quarkus, Drop Wizard, all this. Before that, we need to understand certain things, certain basic thing. I need a volunteer who is kind of say, for example, more than 5 years experience and less than 7 years experience, 5 to 7 years experience. Is there anybody with 5 to 7 years experience? Please unmute yourself and then let me know, because I have some doubts to clarify.
Yeah, I have 6+ of experience.
Okay, Shubharda.
Yeah.
Shubharda. Okay, fine. Shubharda, so what is the framework that you are using in your project for REST APIs?
So REST API is basically Spring Boot only we are using in our application.
Okay. Before Spring Boot, what was the choice?
It was REST JAX arrays we are using.
Which one? JAX?
JAX arrays, REST-EG.
REST-EG. Okay. And when you develop with REST-EG, are you deploying your application to any server, or you are just running your application locally and it was running?
We are deploying the application into a dev environment. WAR deployment it was.
WAR deployment. Okay. And you used Tomcat.
Yeah, Tomcat.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, brother. Is there anyone in our group who used application servers? I can name the servers: WebLogic, WebSphere, JBoss. Anyone used the servers? Please unmute yourself and let me know.
Yes,
it's long time now. Now we are not using, but in the start of the career, we used to use those things.
Okay, this is
Pradyumna.
Pradyumna. Okay, Pradyumna. Yeah. So when you say long time before, how long it was?
Yeah, I'm currently almost 8 years, so I'm talking about maybe 2015, 14, 15. Maybe.
Okay. So 2014. That's good. 2000 till 2014, someone was using application servers. Okay, yeah. Good.
I mean, those kind of clients who used to work there.
Yes. Yeah, I got it. In fact, I used JBoss just 2 years before in one company.
Yeah, we used to use WebLogic a lot that time, I remember.
Yeah, okay. So now let us understand a little bit of history. Sometimes history matters. We will go to the technical topic slowly. Let me share. Okay. So it all started with this application servers. Basically, a long time before, what we used to do is there was a clear separation of programs. A program and a client server program. There was a difference. So what is a program? A program is something that you do your normal work. Something like you write a calculator yourself or something like that. That is your own programs. But when you want to connect to an external party, something like database and all those stuff, that is called server programs. Earlier, we used to use server programs, something like you needed different applications. So WebLogic, WebSphere, these are all applications where we develop our applications, something like we package it like a WAR or EAR, and we deploy it to an external application, and the external application will run this. That is how we were running it actually earlier. But now we don't see anything like a client or server programs. In today's world, if you see how you develop software is, you just say, okay, Spring Boot at the REST API controller, you run your Java file, public static void main, and then it starts, it has the REST API to you. But this is something that was happening earlier. So what was the problem with this is, Just remember this case. If you people are used with WebLogic, they may be knowing this. In EJBs, if you want to connect to any database related items, you need to do something called deployment activities, which means you need to locally generate a AR file, deploy it to the server, then only you can test it. The shortcoming is development was a little complex. A normal programmer can write normal programs. Only better programmers can write client server program. Or some gap was there actually, but because it's not because of the programmer's complexity, it's because of the platform complexity we were doing it. And later this application servers era gone. Then web servers came where we started using Tomcat. So just now one of our friends mentioned that he used REST-EC to deploy to Tomcat. Even there it was a deployment, but the only problem, only advantage is in that case it's only JSP servlets that you can see inside the server. Your database connection, everything you can test it locally. That is the value add that Hibernate first time brought in. That's why we were able to do the database and the external connections easily, and Spring helped us a lot. That was the second era. And then we are into the third level of that. We live in a world where we develop self-contained applications. Before we understand any of these frameworks like Spring Boot and all those frameworks, we need to understand what is this self-contained application or cloud native application. This word you can see in many places wherever you go for interviews or some presentations. They mention that we develop cloud, we are a cloud native company, we are a cloud native application and all that stuff. Can anyone volunteer in the team, in the group, can you please let me know what do you mean by cloud native application? The characteristics of a cloud native application. Even rough guess should be fine.
I think it's all about the container-based applications. You can easily deploy into cloud and do the work.
Okay, fine. Okay, good answer. Any other cloud native characteristics? Okay, in cloud native world, applications can manage themselves. For example, let us consider this case. What is the role of a server? I see I hope everybody is able to see this. In this specific case, what was this role of a web server? In this side, this is a client. There is a database. Your program resides in this web server. What is the role of a web server? So the responsibility of a web server is you develop programs, and when you deploy the programs cannot just run it because they have some non-functional requirements. What are those non-functional requirements? Your program should have a centralized configuration because you need to connect your database and all those stuff. So you should be able to configure your database, all this extra properties. And then you need security. You want to apply security to that. And then you need, say for example, cluster support. Or say for example auto scaling. So these are all the things that you are doing, that you are depending on these kind of web servers. Web servers will do this for you. You can just develop the application. But today's world, each application that you develop, they are capable of doing all this by themselves, which means they are self-managed applications. You just deploy the application to the cloud. They know how to form a cluster. They know how to apply security. They know how to get the configurations. So that is the place where self-contained applications or cloud native applications comes into picture. But there are still, you see applications where you deploy an application container in the cloud and then you make a EAR file and then you go and deploy it. Whether it will not work in the cloud, no, it will still work. That is also there in the cloud. But the cloud native means your application should be self-sufficient. That's the idea. And that is the place where frameworks like Spring Boot, Drop Wizard, all this comes into picture. So correct me if my statement is invalid or valid. Whenever we ask this question to ourselves, what is Spring Boot? Spring Boot is a framework that is for microservices. And Spring Boot is a framework that will have less number of code. Spring Boot does not need web servers. Spring Boot makes high performance applications. Any of my statement is wrong? Application, I think they applied some security. Okay. Fine. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Satish.
Okay, fine. So whenever we ask this question to ourselves, what is Spring Boot? In fact, today's session is not about introduction to Spring Boot. It's all about what is Spring Boot. So whenever we ask this question, these are all the answers that we will have. Spring Boot is a framework that will help you to develop microservices. Spring Boot is a framework that will help you to write less number of code. It will execute with less number of code. Then Spring Boot does not need web servers. Spring Boot makes high performance applications. This is a framework for developing high performance applications. Is any of the statement is correct or wrong?
I think third statement is not right because it does require a server, right?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, even I agree on that point. I mean, it's embedded Tomcat, or we can deploy into JT server. I mean, it needs a basically container to run the application.
Perfect. Okay, fine. Yeah.
And also the line you said no less number of code, you mean less number of business codes.
Less number of
logic,
business logic. Okay. Okay.
Spring Boot does not in any way optimize the performance, right, Satish?
Okay. Good.
So it's basically a rapid application development framework, which is which actually abstracts away a little more complex configurations that we normally do in a regular Spring-based application. So it gives that as profiles here.
Okay, perfect. Who is this?
Yeah, this is Venu. Today only I joined this group. Thanks for accommodating me.
Welcome, Venu. So Venu's answer is relatively much closer. We will see that. But now let us consider all of the statement. To me, according to me, it is wrong. It is not made for microservices. It is not less number of code. Let us see it one by one. First of all, it actually needs web servers. Even though we are saying we come to the third area where we do not have web servers. You do not have web servers, but the frameworks will have them built in. For example, now in this case that you see, let us look at the dependencies that it adds. All that I added is I created a Spring Boot web here. Okay, now let us analyze the dependencies that it brings in. So it is not less number of code. The code that you write is less, but still Spring Boot brings in quite a bit of dependencies just by adding one single dependency here. So on your right side, that's all that I have added. And on your left side that you see, it's all that Spring Boot automatically loads for you. Okay, now the third statement is wrong. Now let us look at the second statement. There is the server requirement. Okay, now where is our server? You see embedded Tomcat here. So Spring Boot still brings servers, but then it hides a fact. Now let us get into our statement, other items. So this is wrong. This is wrong. And then coming to microservices. Microservices is that just how you deploy your system. There is nothing called Spring Boot microservices. Spring Boot microservices, you will be doing Spring Boot microservices when you do something like Spring Component microservices, something like that. You never do that, which means there is nothing called microservice inside Spring. It's just a framework that can be used to develop microservices. That's all. Now, Spring Boot makes high performance application. That is debatable. We will come to that later. Now, rapid application development. How Spring Boot will do this rapid application thing is, underlying it uses two concepts. Okay, now as we know about the servers and all those stuff, let us, another important interview question that you will be asked is, people will ask about what is the difference between Spring versus Spring Boot. And this is the place where many people will make wrong choices actually. Can anyone tell me what is the difference between Spring and Spring Boot?
I think in Spring, we have to write all the configurations, whereas in Spring Boot, most of the configurations are pre-configured. We have to just do adjustments.
Okay. Again, Venu, is it Venu?
See, with Spring, we have the flexibility to include or exclude any dependency that we want, and we as a developer have the complete control of the configuration. But in case of Spring Boot, we need to accept the pre-built configurations which are available as the packaged profiles, and in some cases the pre-built configuration may not actually help, like the fine-grained control that we have in Spring may not be available in Spring Boot in certain scenarios that I have come across, but currently I'm not able to recollect. So if you want complete control, if you can manage, if you want to manage in and out of your application, Spring is best. But Spring Boot, for most of the scenarios that we encounter in day-to-day world, it enables rapid application development.
Okay, perfect. Okay, all of them are very good answers. I'll just do a small changes. I will suggest small suggestions actually. Okay, Spring and Spring Boot. First of all, this question itself is not that a valid question. The reason being, even if you use Spring Boot, indirectly you are using Spring Framework. These are all the Spring Framework classes that Spring Boot will bring in automatically for you. There are quite a bit actually. Okay, so in Spring Framework you have this dependency injection and all those stuff. When Spring Boot first time came, I remember this was the I think this was a statement. Spring Boot is the opinionated way of developing Spring applications. That was the statement initially, which means, say for example, let us consider this case. You want to develop a web application. When you add this starter, the main difference between Spring and Spring Boot is this word that you see. Many of the plugins that you add, you see the starter, JPA starter, data starter, and all those stuff. What is the starter will do for you? You can open the starter web and then you can see what they do for you. For example, this is starter. There is a basic starter. See how many starters that we have. So what is the starters will do? Starters is nothing but, if you say web, what are all the beans that you need in the web? You need a REST controller, all that stuff. It will pre-assume things, load it for you. That is how it makes it rapid application development, which means rather you do it, this dependency that you add is what makes all these items. That's the idea. Now how it indirectly works is, how Spring Boot loads the component. Here, what is the starting point of Spring Boot?
Yeah, we have Spring CLI, like the Spring that IO, and from there we can select the project that we want, like which all dependent libraries that we want.
Okay, fine. Yeah, so basically you're saying this starter.
Yeah, starter.spring.io.
Starter.spring.io. Okay, fine. Okay, that's one. But my question is, now what? Okay, let us consider this let us come from the test case. You see my test case here. I have an application which needs a component, and the component needs something else. So if you look at this, the component needs dependent component. I run this. Okay. If you look at these lines that you see, right? These lines that you see, you never coded for this. Okay, the final thing, all that you wanted to print is only this line, but there are things that gets loaded here. Who does all this for you? It is nothing but, if you go to this demo application, Spring Boot heavily uses annotations. We have seen the annotation sessions earlier. So from now onwards, we will see the real use case of annotations in framework side. Now this particular annotation that you put, you just remove this. Now you come here and then you start here. What is the difference that you see now? No, why? It cannot load the context. If you are coming from Spring, you know what is that context is. Context is something that you make through your XMS and all those stuff, where you do quite a bit of a configuration. Instead, the magic is this. If you put this line, Spring Boot, how Spring Boot works is, it loaded, this is your component. This is your component. How Spring Boot loaded is, it just identified that there is a component syntax here. Then it knows that, okay, this component should be loaded. That's how it actually loaded your component here. Now, if you see here, what Spring Boot does for you is, it goes to that folder. From there, it actually checks who all are marked as a Spring Bean. loads them, loads their dependencies and all those stuff, package them, create your application context, and then give it to you. From there, your program can start. In fact, this boot up time that you were doing earlier in Spring, you are doing yourself with XML's annotation configuration yourself, but that boot up work is being done for you from Spring Boot. Now, if you see, my component is loaded already. My component is loaded from this one. Okay, so which means if you just mark it as a component or service any Spring Bean, it will get loaded. That is our understanding. Let us consider I want another component. My another component. Okay, and I want this. This is coming from somewhere else. So another app. So idea will say, okay, you are using it from somewhere else. So that is also my component only. So this is also a component. Now I want this component to be passed to my test case. So I say @AutoWired my another component. Okay. So this my component will be available for me here, right? Anybody have difference of opinion? Now my another component will be available for me. Let us debug this. The expectation is same way that it auto-wired my component, it should auto-wire my another component also. That is the expectation. It failed. Can anyone guess why it failed? I did everything correct, right? I just marked it as
Package
component.
@AutoWide is like a component wise. Maybe package is a difference because of that one base package.
Exactly. Now this is the important catch here. Okay, just watch this. You had your applications in another package, and which is missed by Spring. Even though you said, if you look at your application, just read, even though it's 3 lines of code, it is doing quite a bit of a thing behind the screen. So Spring Boot application, what Spring Boot application will do is, it was actually looking at this package. From this package, it was searching all the classes that you have. And in that, it found that, okay, there is my component, that is a component, and then it loaded it. But you have a component somewhere else, but it is outside that package, which is not visible to Spring. But I want to make this visible to Spring. When I start this should be my another component should be visible to me. What shall we do? And I don't want to change my packaging.
The component scan.
Exactly. Good. So now what you can do is component scan, and then you have another package also to be searched, and then you say, please Spring, go and search, scan this package also. And in those packages, if you see any items that is marked as a Spring Bean, please take it for me.
So you have to give both the packages now because you are explicitly saying go to another package.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to give the both package name now, or else you can move to the demo application to the base.
Base. Okay. Let us see what is this doing now. So earlier it complained that I was not able to load my component, but let us see whether it is able to load my another component now. And meanwhile, you can see if you run a normal test case, it will be very, very fast. But Spring Boot is very slow now, right? To start the application, it is taking a lot of time. Just watch out for this. We will cover that at the end. Okay, it loaded my another component. Basically, it did some component scanning, and then it has taken it for you. Now, can anyone guess what is the importance of these status? So what is the implementation of these status? If you open the source code of the status, what will the status contain?
The starters include all the required jar files.
Exactly. And then they put component scans for that. Because, for example, if you need MongoDB, if you put a MongoDB starter, MongoDB default configuration, connection, everything gets loaded to you. That gets loaded because of the starter palms. They will explicitly say Spring Boot. If you are including me, then please component scan this also. And they add some other additional behavior also. This itself is a bigger topic that we'll see later. But the one major difference in Spring Boot is this starter dependencies that you add. They make all the difference of you doing rapid application development. Okay, that's one. Okay, should I need this @ component if I want to bring all the elements? Say, for example, if you are bringing in a third-party library, they will not be Spring applications, but you need to bring them into Spring ecosystem. How do you bring them?
Using component, Spring container able to understand it is particular classes belongs to that Spring container. If you are not putting that component, it won't understand, so that it will fail. That been not found exception something.
Okay, for example, I have this dependence component. Unfortunately, this dependent component is, say for example, this dependent component is not a Spring Bean. It's not @ component. And I want this dependent component to be loaded inside my, say for example, now I will just put contract. Okay, now let us see the third case. We understand this component scan. My component. My component. Now let us debug this. My component will be populated now. Okay, but okay, but in this case, my question is, I have a dependent component. I need this for my component. My component depends on this, but unfortunately, this dependent component is not directly Spring Bean. So in this case,
I mean, you can declare the win method in the
exactly.
method, and there you can kill the object.
Exactly. So what is this @bean is doing for you?
Just making that as a component. It's a Spring Bean.
Okay. If you see this, if you compare with our earlier classes, we discussed about something called strategy patterns. So what is a strategy pattern? It's not about inheritance. It's about compositions. Now, if you look at this guy, if you look at console, yes.
Sorry, could you say what that @bean annotation is?
Yeah, I'm coming to that. Okay, so you can bring a bean in many ways. For example, beans are managed, Spring managed beans. Consider that way. Basically, the beans are the objects that are loaded into your application context. All that we do in Spring Boot is you want to load your dependencies into your application context. You can do it in multiple ways. One way is if you annotate it as @ component, Spring can automatically detect, okay, an object of this class has to be created, and that should be considered as a Spring Bean.
Okay.
And in some cases,
I think the best example is the REST template, because REST template is not a Spring component. When you want to use that REST template, you have to create a bean of that.
Yeah. For example, now you consider this case. I am a component and I need null. Null means, for example, this guy needs dependent component, but the dependent component is not loaded. Now, if you say I auto wire, then Spring will understand, okay, this component should be auto wired. If you run this, first thing that Spring will check is if you go to the dependent component, you have not marked it as a Spring Bean. So the second option is it will look for this @bean. In @bean, if you have any method that returns this dependent component, this will be loaded actually.
So when to decide like when to use @bean and when to use @component?
Okay, just a logical thing. Okay, okay. Now the dependency has come. Okay, now the logical thing is uh, dependent component. Even though I mentioned it here, consider this dependent component is coming from a third-party library, a plain Java library, which you cannot go and then change the source code. For example, here your source code is here. You can simply say component here. But consider that for an instance, this dependent component is coming from a third-party library. This is a third-party code. In that case, you can use @b.
To add on this one, take an example of your Kafka connecting with your Spring Boot application. At the time, I need Kafka template, right? Or I need to create one factory class for creating that Kafka configuration. That time you can use that bean configuration, those configurations and all.
Yeah, it's entirely up to you. If you have the source code with you, then you can easily mark it as the annotation, component, service, rest controller, whatever it is. But if that class is coming outside your source code, you want to bring them into your Spring context, then only you will do this. And there are some other cases also. If you want to give multiple components, then there is something like primary, secondary, and all those stuff. We will see that in detail later.
So one question according to me.
Yes. Your voice is low.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So you have declared the bean right in a class. So how does the Spring knows that it should go and pick up that bean?
See, it loads it to the context, right? Ultimately, Spring needs a mechanism to create objects, identify that these objects are supposed to be considered for application context.
So these are stereotype annotations. When Spring looks at all these annotation, finds that bean or that component or that controller, it picks those automatically.
Yes, it loads it to your application context. Basically, it's just a dependency loading.
Okay. Do we need to mention annotations on the class too or not?
It depends, right? In case if you have that class, then this is more straightforward way of annotating that. If you have that source code, you can easily annotate it, and then you can say, okay, this will be loaded automatically. In fact, it gives you some other syntax also. For example, now you did auto wire here. I consider I do not do auto wire, so Spring has no clue. Then I say, in fact, some people prefer this convention over the other. Now, if you say final, it will complain. Generate constructor. Now also Spring can detect that this is a bean. Can you guess why? I did not put auto here.
It's a constructor injection.
Because this guy is a component, which means this will be loaded. When this will be loaded, Spring will check for the constructor. And in the constructor, it is accepting a parameter. Then it will check whether there is any bean with this. Then it will load that also. It will auto wire it automatically. In fact, this is now. Okay, in this case, bean is not detected. Okay.
You still have to give auto wire on the constructor.
No, I don't think so. Still not.
No, the bean is already defined for you.
Yeah. I need to comment that out. Now it should work. The Spring Boot is very slow, right? See, every time it is taking a lot of time. Just a simple one-liner, but it is taking a lot of time. Okay, just for other sake, just now someone answered this. Someone got it correctly. Who answered this? Can you explain the answer why it was failing?
It's Sanjeev.
Yeah, Sanjeev.
Yeah, basically, so at the startup, right? So already you created a bean, and then again next time it is trying to create the same bean. So the Spring tells us like already the bean is defined.
Good catch. So what is Sanjeev saying is you already defined the bean and then you marked it as auto component also. Then Spring got confused. That's why it was failing. Okay. Now we will conclude today's session. In fact, this is the important thing when we understand Spring Boot. We will cover the detailed topic later. Spring is very slow, right? Yes, every time it is taking a lot of time to load. This is the complaint that people will give about startup time is slow in Spring Boot. But can anyone guess what is the problem with this startup time in Spring? Why is it slow?
One thing we can check is like Spring Boot has the by default so many dependencies. We can just exclude those dependencies which are not needed. That way we can do some performance.
Okay. So just a logical logical delay test. Okay, there are two things that Spring Boot is doing for you. One is it is doing auto scanning, which means the reflections are costlier actually. So Spring Boot is going through your source code, is going through your jars, trying to identify who are the beans that it should be loaded. That is quite a bit of a costly activity. Second thing, after auto scanning, what is it doing? It is building the context for you. So to build the context, what it needs to do, it needs to create the objects. It needs to load the objects, right? That is why it is taking time in the initial time. After that, it will be faster. But one of the answers that we got earlier is Spring Boot will have control. Spring Boot will not have control. But Spring Boot will have a control. You can control both these behaviors. You can control what should be auto scanned. You can control what should be built also. We will see that in detail later, but probably I will just give a glimpse. There is something called include, exclude kind of options here. We'll see that in detail in the next week. Also for context load, after Spring Boot 2.3, I think there is something called the lazy load. What will this lazy load will do is, it will not load your bean at the beginning time. It will wait until you access it for the first time. But this will have some side effects that we'll see later. But basically the idea is Spring Boot can be and should be customized for your production environment. It can't be taken as a ready-made. If you are using it as a ready-made Spring Boot application, probably it is not a problem with Spring Boot. We are not configuring it properly. We will see that in detail in the upcoming week. How do we fine-grain this? And then we'll see about RESTful APIs also. Any